What's up, guys? Welcome back to Oh My Growth. I'm about to get my period. I feel so rough. I actually feel so ugly. You know, when I say that, I feel like okay, all women understand what I mean. But like, when I say that to my boyfriend, he's like, but you're not ugly. And I know I'm not ugly. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel disgusting inside right now. And that's just the way it is. But I wanted to film this anyway. Today's actually Tuesday. So I'm doing this in advance. And that's because I don't want to miss any uploads. I honestly, like, this is still in the building process. I know that there's not thousands of listeners, but I want to be consistent with this though. Here I am. And actually, that really ties into what we're going to be talking about today, because today's topic is why most people don't succeed. Often, success isn't just about like talent, it's more about what's getting in your way and how you go about reaching your goals. So, I want to break down 6 key reasons why a lot of people don't succeed, but also how you can overcome them. The last one is something I don't think most people think about, but it definitely affects you. So yeah, we're just gonna get right into the topic. Reason number 1 is fear of failure. This one shouldn't come as a surprise, but fear of failing often paralyzes our actions. We're scared to be judged, we're scared to be embarrassed, we're scared of rejection. There's so many people who have amazing ideas and they don't take the first step because, well, fear of failure. And it's so real. Like, I think anyone who has any kind of dream or idea or anything they want to do can relate to fear of failure. Like, I can relate to that. I had a huge fear of failure before I started this, and I still have it a little bit because, like, still beginning stages. We are on episode 15 though, and that's kind of a milestone, so a little shout out for that. But I have fear of failure all the time, even with school, with exams, constantly thinking, okay, but what's going to happen if this doesn't work? But there's a different way of looking at this. What if failure isn't final? What if failure is just a part of learning along the way? I think it's really important we start normalizing failure, because honestly, like, failing is kind of just practicing and trying things out. And if you don't try things out, you're never gonna know what works anyway. It's so good to fail, because then you know that that specific thing won't work, and then you can adjust from there. It's rare that we have an idea or dream and it just immediately works out. Usually that's not how it goes. And I want to challenge you to also try to reframe failure as something that's just practice. It's not final. It's not a punishment. It is just part of practicing. Number 2 is lack of consistency. See, this one I had a little bit of trouble with there for a second, because when it comes to the podcast, I know that consistency is important, of course. It's very hard to be consistent, to come up with maybe ideas, to feel like it's relevant for you to continue moving forward. And this is no shame to, like, anyone who feels like it's hard to be consistent, because the thing is, there's a lot of stuff that can get in the way of being consistent, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But consistency does, of course, matter if you have long-term goals. It's very common to have a strong start, and then with time, it slowly becomes weaker and weaker. Even, for example, going to the gym, that's a very common example. You go for 2 weeks, you go 3-4 times a week, then week 3, maybe you start feeling like you don't want to go, and suddenly it's been 6 months. Consistency is something that definitely beats intensity over time. If you're someone who, for example, is struggling getting a good gym routine together, instead of pushing yourself to go 4 times a week and like go maybe try and do like a little bit of exercise every day just to get into the consistency of it. Because if you have the habit, it's going to be much easier to actually follow through. This is setting micro habits instead of big leaps, which can be really hard to do. Micro habits will get you very far. And then once you have those, you can implement routines. But it's dangerous not to prioritize consistency, just because without it, you're probably not going to reach the goals you're setting for yourself. Goals take time, and good things don't always come very easy. Reason number 3 is not setting clear goals. It's very hard to hit a target if you haven't defined what target you're trying to hit. If you take two people as an example, one has a really vague idea of what they want. The other person has a really clear plan. Which one is most likely to reach their goals? Probably the person with the plan. Having a plan helps you build consistency. Having a plan even helps you overcome fear of failure. Because just knowing what kind of steps you want to take, just knowing where it is you want to get to, helps a lot. It's almost impossible to reach a more complicated goal if you don't know what kind of end you're trying to get to. Having clarity also helps you feel less overwhelmed because honestly, like reaching goals, setting high standards for yourself, you're going to feel overwhelmed sometimes. I remember in school, our teachers would talk about SMART goals and setting SMART goals. And back then I was like, this is so silly. What are we learning here? But the older I get, the more I realize this is actually really beneficial to think about. I had to look up the definition because I didn't remember it. But SMART goals stand for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. Essentially, this is just planning really well. Knowing specifically what you're looking for, having a way to measure that success, having something that feels achievable, that's realistic, relevant to you, and also time-bound, setting some micro step goals. All of this will make you more likely to reach the end of that. Reason number 4 is lack of self-belief. We're talking imposter syndrome. We're talking the fear of not being good enough. It's so common to struggle with this. I struggled with this recently when I was on a trip with a company. I was like, what the heck am I doing here? Like, why would they want to fly me out somewhere? That's crazy. Because the other girls I was there with, they'd been doing this for a few years and it made sense. For me, I felt like I was so new to the whole like content creation, media industry, and I had so much imposter syndrome. That is a form of lack of self-belief. Somewhere inside me, I didn't believe I was supposed to be there. But at the end of those days, I did believe that I belonged there. And this isn't only common for like everyday people, it's so common for successful people too. Celebrities or authors or whatever you can think of, athletes. It's very common. It's hard to see yourself in that light. You can see other people and think, oh my God, they're so successful. They're so good at what they do. Wow, it looks so easy. And then when you're doing it yourself, it feels kind of silly and embarrassing and awkward. But your belief about yourself drives your behavior. It's not the other way around. If you don't believe you can do something, you're probably not going to do it. Doing it doesn't lead to you believing in yourself. It doesn't really go that way. Because without the belief in the first place, it's going to be really hard for you to achieve your goals. And this is also where the SMART goals kind of come into play. Having something measurable, having something time-bound, seeing little steps, small achievements, they matter. Tracking those small wins will build evidence for you, and it will lead to you having more self-belief. And that will make you way more capable too. Reason number 5 is a negative environment. I've kind of touched on this in different episodes, different topics, but your environment affects so much of you, who you become, what you do in your daily life, your routines, toxic friends, discouraging family members, uninspiring workspaces. You become a version of who you spend time with and where you spend your time. I've seen a lot of TikToks recently. I don't know what my algorithm is telling me, but it's telling me to go on vacation. But I've seen a lot of TikToks of people who say like, oh, me 6 months before I go backpacking, and then a video of them 6 months after they go backpacking. The difference? Crazy. Probably because they were finally in an environment where they felt inspired. They felt encouraged. They felt alive. You can see that in a person. You can see when someone feels inspired and positive and good. And you can see when someone feels uninspired and discouraged. Environments shape your behavior so much more than your willpower. It is really important to think about your circle. Who do you spend time with? Who do you surround yourself with? How do they speak to you? How do they treat you? How does that make you feel about yourself? And if you can't completely decide how your circle looks, try to distance yourself from things that make you feel bad. Your environment, how you see yourself, is going to affect your self-belief. your self-belief is going to affect your fear of failure. Your fear of failure and being embarrassed and so forth is going to affect your consistency. It all ties together, but it all starts with how you feel in here and what you have out here. The sixth and final reason I want to go through and touch on today is distraction and procrastination. The reason why I think a lot of people might not think about it this way is because often being busy is seen as being productive. Being busy isn't always being productive. I like the saying busy is a blessing, and that is true. It's nice to be busy, it's nice to have things to do, it's nice to have people to see, it's nice to have just, I don't know, being busy, having things to do. But being busy doesn't always translate to being productive. Because what if the busy that's in your life has nothing to do with your goals? What if being busy in your life has nothing to do with your happiness? You're just busy. Sometimes being too busy can lead to burnout, too. Endless scrolling on social media, multitasking and not actually focusing on something, or even trying to avoid discomfort because there's just too much going on. All of this is so normal, and it's really hard as well because most of us have jobs. A lot of them are full-time. When are you going to find time to actually reach your goals and work on them? It is really tough. What I found worked for me when I was more, because nowadays, like, I do have more free time on my hands, and that's such a blessing. But I tried to set aside at least 1 hour a day where I was completely focused. Most of us have an hour a day, not everyone, and I'm fully aware of that, but most of us have an hour a day where we can sit down, focus on ourselves, focus on our goals, focus on those dreams we have. One focused hour a day. No distractions, no procrastination. Sometimes procrastinating is also a little bit of fear in disguise if you were scared of, again, fear of failure, but no distraction, no procrastination for at least an hour. If you do that an hour a day, it's not a lot, but it's better than nothing. And once again, like, that will trigger a consistency in you. It'll trigger a part of you that will ignite like the spark of wanting to reach these goals. And once that spark is ignited, you are more likely to work more on it. Maybe during summer, you have some free time. Maybe you're on vacation. But, I mean, use the time you have when you have it. The truth is, most of us have an idea of how we want our life to look like, but most people just never reach that vision. Everything I'm saying right now is, of course, coming from a privileged perspective. And it is important to acknowledge when you are someone who is privileged. The fact that I live somewhere, the fact that I have fresh water, the fact that I have food, the fact that I have free time, I have freedom of speech, the fact that I can have this conversation and focus on my goals and think about them, that's a privilege. Not everyone has that. But if you are someone who has that privilege, you're probably in a position where you have an idea of how you want your life to look. And if you have the means to make that happen, try. You're not going to regret trying. So let's recap the 6 reasons. Number 1, fear of failure. Number 2, lack of consistency. Number 3, no clear goals, smart goals. Number 4, lack of self-belief. Number 5, a negative environment. And number 6, distraction and or procrastination. The good news, all of that can be in your control. If you want to start somewhere and you feel overwhelmed, pick one of these 6 reasons. One that really hits home, one that resonates with you, and take action on that one this week. It's Friday today. You can start on Monday, but take action on at least one this coming week. Starting somewhere is much better than not starting at all. And I really do believe that anyone can reach any goal if they just believe in themselves and put in the effort. I'm going to keep trying to reach my goals. I have them very clearly set in my head, and for sure, I struggle with the whole imposter syndrome. When I was at the trip I was on recently, we had a panel talk. I've never done anything like that before, sitting on a stage with a microphone, answering questions. I was like, what the heck am I doing here? But we were asked a question, which was, what would your like number one advice be if you started from scratch with everything you're doing right now? And all of the girls had such wonderful things to say, and then I went last, and I was like, oh my God. And what I said was, reaching goals, trying something new, being different, it's not cute. It's not pretty. It's actually really awkward. And you have to be willing to put up with those difficult, more awkward moments if you know what you're reaching for. Because it's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be kind of ugly. But that's the price you pay if you have big dreams. And if you're not willing to put up with the negative aspect of it and that journey, you're not gonna get there. And that's why most people don't. So my advice to you is go be embarrassing. Go make a fool out of yourself. Most people aren't gonna. But if you do, you're probably gonna be one of the few who actually gets where you wanna be at the end. And then everyone's gonna wanna be you. So it won't be very embarrassing anymore at that point. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all. And I wanna wish you, as usual, beautiful morning, evening, night, or day. And I will see you next time.